with Brad, Jim, and Will. What have they been watching lately? They're Husky, hairy, huggable homos. Movie Bears Podcast.
Hello all and welcome to episode 534 of the Movie Bears Podcast. I am Bradley Harris, and along with my fellow Husky, hairy, huggable homos and friends, we review movies, either current or classic, on this show. And the movie this week is a little interesting. It's a lot current, maybe a little classic in terms of comics. We are reviewing Marvel's newest outing, Fantastic Four. Coming on the heels of our big Superman episode last week, relative to when we're recording, it is indeed a super fantastic July, and I think we're all about it. But before we get into deep thoughts on Fantastic Four, let me introduce my co-hosts. Jim Pugliafico is with us here in the virtual studio, and I wouldn't have it any other way if at all possible. Hey, sweetheart, how you doing?
Present. I'm feeling good. Ready to talk about another movie with you guys, another big movie, summer movie. And I'm ready to get into it. Let's go.
All right, excellent. Well, so glad you're here for this conversation. Someone else we literally could not do this show without. The amazing, wonderful William Lindis is also here, coming to us from Texas, relative to Jim and I in Arizona. Will, how are things in your part of the country? How are you?
Those are two very separate questions. How are things in this part of the country is always relative when we're talking about Texas. But how am I doing? I'm doing pretty well. This is a health gives, health taketh away type week. I got COVID over the weekend and have been recovered from that. But it was the most minor-ish of like scratchy throats thing possible. At the same time, like my most recent tumor scans came back with like mass shrinkage on some of the tumors. So I'm like, I'll take some COVID in exchange for this. Yeah. Like I'm coming out on the good side of this health deal, I think.
Hell yeah. Well, so excited about the good medical news there. Well, bummer about COVID though. Yeah. Jim got it coming back from Bigger Vegas a few weeks ago, and
I don't think I authorized you on my HIPAA form to give out that information.
I'm sorry.
No,
that's all good. No, I was gonna say it anyway. Yeah, I got this strain too, and I know it compared to previous times that I had it, this one was relatively benign. It was basically like cold symptoms for a few days, and that's pretty much it. But of course, I went on the medicine, the Paxlovid stuff, and I went through all the tasting metal for a week, and
all the fun stuff,
all that stuff that goes with that. It's almost worse than dealing with it. But I don't know, if it saved me a day or two of symptoms, then it's probably worth it.
Now's the time for people just to play it extra safe, wash your hands, just be careful. That's, again, there's just minor things that you do whenever we hit the cold flu season. For me, it was, I had just gotten done the day before I tested positive for COVID. I had just gotten this shot that I take at the oncologist's office that boosts my white blood cell count. And the symptom is it's going to cause bone pain, and it hasn't yet, but the next morning I woke up and my body was achy all over. I was like, oh no, it finally happened. And then I realized a little later on the day, no, it's just like the COVID muscle sores. And so it's so weird when the symptoms try to overlap with each other, but we're here.
That's right. Will, I don't know if you saw, but the very sexy and delectable Richard Hughes from the Palm Springs area says, yay, great news. Happy to hear, Will, about the tumor shrinkage. He also mentions, knock on wood. Whose wood, Richard, are you knocking on?
Hey, now.
He says he's never had COVID.
I won't say it.
He's been around people with it. So, Richard, maybe maybe you're like the one person on the planet who's immune. Maybe we're going to do like a whole game series and TV series about your immunity, and
Yeah,
it
what's
could
the
be
girl in
like,
that zombie series? Blah 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 blah. Like, what's her
yeah.
name?
Well, that's Ellie. Maybe Richard could be Belly. How about
Ellie.
that?
Relly. Yeah.
Belly.
Ri-
Belly.
Richard
Yeah.
Ellie. Yeah.
It's uh, if we're going into our Stephen King knowledge here, let's say you were one of the 0.6% of people that is immune to Captain Trips, which is the virus that took out people in the stand.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Richard says, I hope. Richard saying, fingers crossed. All right. Well, we got a lot to talk about this week with Fantastic Four, of course, freshly in theaters relative to when we're recording on Tuesday, July 29th, 2005 at 6:46 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. I don't know why it needed to be so exact, but apparently it did, because that's what came out. Thanks, ADHD. In any event, Jim, Will, are you ready to talk about this one? We got people waiting for this discussion to kick off. Are you ready?
You know what, Mose? I think we should flame on.
Or rock on. Does Ben say
Yeah.
that? Does he say rock on? Because
I
if
think
he doesn't, then that's a missed opportunity.
I think his thing is it's clobbering time.
That's
Oh, it's
correct.
clobbering
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, guys. I know I just said they're waiting for this conversation to start, but before you're about to give your next beach, it's slobbering time.
I legit saw a webcomic where today where the Thing says it to Doctor Doom, and the next panel, Doom is like, "Don't you mean clobbering?" And then the last panel is just the Thing going down on Dr.
Oh my
Doom.
God.
I mean, it's like tastefully covered. But at the same time, it was just like, oh God,
you queer
That's
nerds
brilliant.
or something. I tell
yeah.
you.
Oh my God, you guys! Mick Jones is
Mick
in
is
the
here.
live chat.
Hey, Mick.
Speaking of sexy mofos,
Awesome.
Hey, Mick.
Mick says it's the Palm Springs air that keeps the COVID at bay. So,
Oh.
Jim, you've been talking about maybe retiring there eventually. Maybe that's what'll put us over the hairy edge.
What?
Maybe.
If not Richard Hughes's good hairy belly.
It's a possibility.
All right. Well, let's do it. Whether you prefer to flame on or get some clobber in time, or just being an invisible fly on the wall, or I know I'm really stretching things out here. See, I got a joke in for all four of them.
Yeah.
Is that what Reed Richards says? I'm stretching it.
I mean, he's just
it's stretching time.
So. Yeah, you should.
I don't know. Whatever.
In any event, we're already punchy and we're only 5 minutes in.
I know.
Here we go. Our discussion of Marvel's Fantastic Four. All right. Daniel Jensen. All the sexy fuckers are coming out. Says, I love you guys. Daniel, we love you too. Good to see you. Welcome. And
much
hello.
love.
Indeed. All right. So lots to talk about with this movie. And of course, Will, last week we had Bill from the Comic Book Bears podcast for our big Superman show. All the comic knowledge from you both was immense. A little lesser without Bill, but still really respect the knowledge you bring. You're kind of the Marvel expert. And I did call Marvel out very specifically in terms of this being their Fantastic Four, not those previous Fantastic Four movies that were not Marvel. Set this one up for us, if you don't mind, because there's kind of a history here of these movies coming out and maybe not being so great. What did you think of Marvel's first family outing? How did it land? Spoiler free, of course, until spoilers are officially made fair game.
Yeah, so this is the 5th Fantastic Four movie, although the first that exists within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There was one that Roger Corman directed just to keep the rights with Marvel. And the actors didn't know about that. It's a great story. You should look up sometime. Then there were a set of stories that came out, Jessica Alba as and Chris Evans as the Storms in that. And then there was the Josh Trank one that came out a few years ago with Miles Teller. All of these were received
10 years ago.
Yeah. All of these were received relatively negatively in the grand scheme of things. Even the first Fantastic Four, or the first of the Fox Fantastic Fours, which did well enough to get a sequel, isn't necessarily like looked at in in the rear view with the greatest look. So this was a chance for Marvel to take the Marvel Cinematic Universe to take its first family, it's the characters that kickstarted the superhero boom of Marvel's 1960s, and bring them into this universe, but in a way that is, well, sort of respectful of the fact that there's already been 30, 40 of these movies, and you can't just like ham-fist them in retroactively. So let's talk about what this story is. This is a jumping off point. The description that I read that I most liked is the one that's off of Letterboxd. Against the vibrant backdrop of a 1960s inspired retro futuristic world, Marvel's first family is forced to balance their roles as heroes with the strength of their family bond, while defending Earth from a ravenous space god called Galactus and his enigmatic herald, the Silver Surfer. We have a few key cast members here: Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Eben Moss-Bachrach, and Joseph Quinn as our Fantastic Four, Ralph Ineson here as Galactus, and Julia Garner as the Silver Surfer. I quite liked this, and I think that my feedback on this film is almost identical to my feedback with Superman, in that both Superman...
Uh-oh. Jim, did we lose Will on your end too?
I think we lost Will on
No.
my end as well. So
That
chances are Will's going to rejoin the podcast and pick up where he talks about how his review of this movie is quite similar to his review of the last movie we did, which was Superman.
Richard Hughes in the chat says, Mole Man. Paul Walter Hauser. We'll get to that, but maybe Mole Man is why Will's connection has dropped out. Is Mole Man at the bottom?
Mole Man and his
know.
Yeah, and his minions. Yeah. Will froze. Who knows? His connection may have dropped. So please bear with us. Well, this happens occasionally in the world of podcasting.
I think
Will's back.
He's back.
Yeah.
Hey, Will. Yeah. All right, we're gonna rewind. Okay, you were just about to tell us about the similarities between this and Superman.
Yeah. And so Fantastic Four and Superman both scratched an itch that I don't think I fully knew I needed scratched, but both pulled it off. Both have baggage, cinematic baggage. Superman from Man of Steel and the Snyderverse stuff, Fantastic Four from the movies that came before. So both had to not only stand alone as representatives of the icons that these are within their universes, but also has to shake free from the shit that came before. Both nailed it when it came to characterization, tone, and theme, which are the things they needed to do. And both maybe threw a little too much story, and sometimes that story got a little messy. But in these cases, that was sort of like a necessary sacrifice so that we could get those themes and that tone and all of those other hooks in that we needed. It was refreshing walking out of both the Superman movie and Fantastic Four feeling great about the direction of both of those franchises. Things that I enjoyed so much about Fantastic Four are the look. That retro-futuristic feel is so damn good. I love, that whole look, the Jetsons inspired, or Forbidden Planet, or Flash Gordon. I love that shit. And this movie captures all of that with that Jack Kirby-esque design that we see. it feeds into the set decor, even the color palette that's used. Everything was lovingly made to look and feel like it's of that like early to mid 60s vibe. I think Vanessa Kirby was the standout for me of the cast. I think I enjoyed everyone in this film. But Vanessa Kirby really showed us why. I think a lot of people underestimate how cool a character Sue Storm is. And I think we got to see her pull it off here. So yeah, super enjoyed this one. I'm ready to see what comes next. I like that this was pretty isolated and standalone so that you could just sort of jump in without having to watch a bunch of other shit to catch up to it. This was good. It made me feel good. It made me feel excited about these comic book movies. So yeah, bring it.
That's awesome, Will. Well, thank you so much for sharing your initial thoughts. I'm sure we'll unpack a lot more when we get into spoilers. Real quick, though, Ryan Rivera, yet another very beautiful person, longtime listener to the show, says, headed to bed early here on the East Coast, but I did see this and thoroughly enjoyed it. Love seeing Silver Surfer actually surf on tons of unconventional material. That's in the trailer. That's not a surprise necessarily. But yeah, really cool to point that out, Ryan, for sure. It's more than just floating, powers in that surfboard. It can do other things too. Good to call that out. Sweet dreams, Ryan. Hope to catch you next time. All right, Jim.
Yeah.
You're up next. What did you think of this one? Especially not, I revealed your medical information earlier. I won't reveal your age, but as someone who's maybe a little more in tune with the 60s than Will or I was, I'm very curious what you thought of this film, especially with its like 60s retro futurism.
Yeah. I ended up enjoying this film quite a bit. It's interesting how, I mean, here we are again in superhero land. Again, we just did Superman a little while ago, and both of these franchises, I guess, are kind of in the same boat in terms of like they just keep doing these movies over and over and over again every like 5 to 10 years until they kind of improve it or get it right. And some of them have had a pretty rocky history, right? Some of the Superman, the original Superman movie, I think is universally loved, but since then they've been uneven. Even Man of Steel, blah blah blah, and then the new one, I think we all like that, and a lot of people love that one. And this is kind of following the same similar trajectory, right? Where a lot of people love this first family of superheroes, right, from the comics, and they just have not got it quite right in the movies, maybe until now. And I think the vibe here is really good. I like that 60s retro Art Deco vibe. I think it added a fun little. I mean, it's kind of kitsch. It's kind of kitschy. I guess, is that the right word? Kitschy.
Kitschy. Yeah.
It's kind of kitschy, but it's catchy at the same time, and I think people like that. And the colors popped. And again, it is a different. And I think that is done not just because they like the 60s, but they wanted to set apart the Earth that this takes place on. Is this a spoiler? If I talk about the Earth that takes place on a different version of Earth, I'll just say it's a different version of Earth than our Earth.
Literally, the first frame of the movie shows us that it's a different. So I think you're okay.
Okay. But yeah, and which Brad and I had a huge conversation about because I have trouble wrapping my head around it. We even had to go outside and ask questions about
we had ChatGPT.
What is the numbering? Is what's the number of our Earth? Is our Earth later or earlier than this? Like there's a whole raft of questions.
Well, we had a 20-minute voice conversation with ChatGPT to understand the different Earths and how things played in and what it meant. And people are calling out in the chat, though, babe. It's not a spoiler, so you're
right.
good.
It boils down to it's just arbitrary. It's basically just a way for the writers to set up different realities to play their stories against, kind of. Anyway, so we had a whole discussion about that. So that was interesting for me. I loved all of the characters. I wish that Ben and Johnny had more to do here other than be kind of backdrop. Yes, they participated, especially in battles and stuff like that. But really the main story thrust went through Reed and Sue here, at least the main plot thrust, I think, with Ben and Johnny more kind of as a secondary support. But I was kind of interested in those characters, and I wanted to know more about them because I don't from the comics. I just don't know them. Yeah, I thought everything was great here. It was fun seeing Ralph Ineson get his voice behind a villain, which was great. I thought Galactus was pretty awesome. These super villains are just they're more often than not, they're not completely drawn, right? They're not, they're not completely explained as to what they're doing. This guy's just on a mission. He's out there eating planets and destroying planets, and there's certain things he wants, and sounds like he's getting tired of eating planets. I'm not going to get into the plot too much, but it might be spoilery. But he's Ralph Ineson is great in whatever he's in. Yeah, it was fun to see Natasha Lyonne show up in a totally different look. You almost couldn't recognize her at first, but I like her. She's in a lot of stuff now. Of course, Sarah Niles is in this as well, which was great. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I had fun with it, and that's from somebody who's not really steeped in the comics or the lore of Fantastic Four. So yeah, a good time at the movie theater, definitely.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts as well, babe. For me, I will say that while I don't think this is the best superhero movie ever, I do think it's the best Fantastic Four movie ever that I've seen, at least. I know Richard mentioned there was a 90s maybe Fantastic Four show or something. I don't think I ever saw that. Was that a TV show, Will, or was it a movie?
Yeah, so right after Fox Kids did the X-Men cartoon, there was like a Spider-Man and an Avengers cartoon, and then as in that wave there was also a Fantastic Four cartoon. So it was part of that family of shows. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, so it was a cartoon. Well, very very varied history with the Fantastic Four off the pages of the comic books. I never really followed them closely in the comics. Will, I know you and I have talked comics a lot, and I was much more of a DC person growing up aside from X-Men. So my exposure to the Fantastic Four was like usually when they were like teaming up with Spider-Man or something. Especially like after the Secret Wars comics, and Spider-Man had like the black suit and was trying to figure out what was going on. Mr. Fantastic was helping him. But then when the movies started coming out, I just couldn't. They were so not great. I will never burn the image of Jessica Alba like duck-lipped making force fields like out of my brain. And I was so afraid that with this movie, we were just going to have that again with Vanessa Kirby. But I'll tell you what, she was my favorite part of this whole thing. I think she did fucking amazing. Taking the Invisible Woman, who, of the Fantastic Four, I promise I'm not a misogynist, she was just never that interesting to me, especially because her power is predominantly like becoming invisible. Like, okay, Sheila in Dungeons and Dragons could like put her hood and do that. Like, that doesn't seem as like cool or interesting as like stretch powers. But honestly, like her other light-based abilities, and I have a call coming in and this won't cancel, and that's annoying the shit out of me. Don't ever fill out a form online saying you might be interested in selling your car, because they will fucking call you a million times. I don't know where my number went.
Hold on. I'm just getting a message from a weird voice from the stars. Brad, it's asking about the extended warranty on your vehicle.
God damn you, Galactus. No, leave me alone. Anyway, Vanessa Kirby was really, really great. And honestly, Pedro Pascal was pretty fantastic as Mr. Fantastic. Although I just want to say this. It has gotten to the point where he's in so many things that I'm starting to have trouble differentiating him from thing to thing to thing. That's a great problem for him to have as an actor. As an audience member, I'm just kind of like, he's the same guy in everything. He tried to give us a little bit of like, I don't know, a beautiful mind portrayal of Mr. Fantastic, and I dug it, but I don't know. Pedro Pascal's Pedro Pascal. Joseph Quinn is an actor that bugs the shit out of me in a lot of things, but he was pretty good here as Johnny Storm. Thank goodness they upgraded the, you know, obviously technology has changed even in the 10 years since the Miles Teller movie, but I'm really glad that the flame effects are much, much better. It was a lot more pleasing to watch. It's in the trailer, you know, like when he flies up to space, the flame is like guttering due to lack of oxygen. And I was like, props to the visual effects folks for like the realism there, because yeah, fire, you know, needs oxygen to burn. But I have to say, Eben Moss Bacharach as the Thing, probably my favorite version of the Thing ever. Especially when when a, when a certain cosmetic thing happens. I found myself very attracted to rocks all of a sudden.
I
We'll
forgot
talk
about
more
that.
about that in spoilers. But Paul Walter Hauser was here as Mole Man. I had no idea who the fuck Mole Man was. I'm like, what the shit is this? But he was great as usual. I also want to give a shout out to Mark Gatiss. It was a small role as the host of the TV show, and like the Fantastic Four retrospective. It's in the trailer too. But speaking of someone who's been in everything, but like is really different from thing to thing to thing, we've been rewatching Game of Thrones. He was on that as one of the brokers from the Iron Bank of Bravos. Totally different character to this guy. He was on Sherlock as Sherlock's brother. That's a show I haven't thought about in a long time, but also a very different character. So just wanted to give some props to Mark Gatiss for, you know, switching it up between things. This was a fun film. I definitely think it's worth seeing in theaters. I think most people probably are doing so if they want to see it. I do just want to say, I think what took away from this movie for me a little bit is probably the thing that from you guys, and it's comedy. Some of the jokes, one especially, went on far too long. And the one that went on the longest was like actively irritating me how long it was going on. But like everybody else was laughing their heads off. So that's probably more so a me thing than
was it
you
near
know,
the end of the movie?
yes. I won't say any more than that. But
Okay.
yeah. So, but yeah, I think this is a winner. You know, everyone's trying to pit Superman and Fantastic Four against each other, and they're saying, "Oh, they're in a battle. You have to choose one movie or the other. You know, which is it going to be?" And obviously the box office powerhouse that is Marvel. You know, if you look at it from a box office standpoint, okay, yeah, clear winner. But from just like a movie standpoint, I'm not going to declare a winner on my side. I think it's amazing that we get two fucking awesome movies back to back, even like this, right? Making little kid superhero dreams fucking come true. Like, July's been brilliant, and I love that Pedro Pascal and David Cornswet even like teamed up to do some marketing stuff, and they had a little like Instagram love fest, and it was fun. So I appreciate that.
Well,
Yeah,
especially on.
Go ahead, Will.
Oh, guys, I was going to say, especially on the heels of Thunderbolts, which I think we all enjoyed as well too. It seems like there is this has been by and large a good year for sort of like writing the course of some of these movie franchises and sort of getting back to character first.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Jim,
And
what were you going to say?
I think this movie does itself a lot of favors by hitting a lot of quadrants in terms of audience. I think this is definitely a family-friendly movie, a much more family-friendly movie than a lot of these are. They didn't go for anything like super dark. I mean, it's very. There's nothing that you would consider to be, this isn't going to offend the I don't watch anything woke crowd. You know what I mean? I mean, this is very heteronormative, you know, storyline, and it kind of it stays in that very generic, very safe area, as like it's about a family having a baby. You know what I mean? It doesn't push any boundaries there, and thereby perhaps push away any audience. The most risque thing in this movie was when the spaceship went into the other spaceship, and we were making fucking jokes during the movie. Do you remember that?
We're not in
Okay.
spoilers, so let's
No, we're not.
be really careful.
So the woke crowd thing, the hard part is there's a group that immediately called Superman woke because it wasn't Zack Snyder, and then they had to immediately pit this one against that. So you have some people kind of falling into that category. That said, they used Shala Ball, the female version of the Silver Surfer. That's been getting some pushback from
a lot of people are upset. Yeah.
And then also, and this dovetails with something you had mentioned, Brad, that you enjoyed about this film. In the films and even in the cartoons, we don't often get to see Sue Storm the way she is in the comics. Sue Storm in the comics is the leader of the Fantastic Four.
Really?
Yeah. Early on it's Reed, but at a certain point she starts to come into her own, and they realize he's good at figuring out the trajectory of stuff, but he's not necessarily good at making the tough decisions on the field. So a lot of times she's the one that is the actual field leader of the Fantastic Four. She also has a comic where she fought Galactus at one point, and she used her little invisible powers to basically tunnel a fucking spear through the middle of him. And if it wasn't for some technology he had that kept him alive, she would have just obliterated him. We got to see that on screen here. But also I've seen some people say just oh, they made her the leader. That's because it's the MCU. And just
oh my God.
Wow. So I think there is still some of that. Definitely heteronormative. I don't think we don't have really any queer characters of note here, but we do have rampant misogyny still made its way into the reviews of this
Of course.
Yeah. Well, listen,
we are go ahead.
We are what? Go.
No. Go ahead.
I want to hear what we are.
I was going to transition us because we're starting to spoil the film, and I'm very worried about that. So
yeah.
If you have something else, go ahead. And then
I'll wait for spoilers.
Okay. All right. We're going to go ahead and take things to spoilers so that we can take the shackles off and talk about this freely without freaking my anxiety out. Do what you got to do. If you're listening live, feel free to step away for the next 25 minutes or so. Come on back for plugs. You don't want to miss those. If you're listening through the magic of digital tape delay, and you don't want to be spoiled on the film if you haven't seen it yet, go ahead and just use that time index. Jim puts a lot of love and craft into putting that together for you. Thank you, Jim. Just skip ahead, listen to plugs, and then hopefully come on back after you've seen the film. All of that said, spoilers for the Fantastic Four First Steps are happening now. If you're watching the video version of the podcast, you know spoilers are happening because the spoiler ticker is now at the bottom of the screen. So continue watching or listening at your own peril. Jim, when we left you, you were about to make a comment, and I very much would love to hear what you were going to say.
Yeah, I was just going to follow what Will was saying, is how this movie still has its detractors, specifically around, Silver Surfer is female now. And I'm like, I can't believe that wasn't offset by the fact that they got silver boobs. I can't, you know what I mean? You would think that a lot of those bros would be like, oh, silver boobs. I guess we can go with it.
But there's no nipples, Jim. There's no nipples on those boobs. So they're they're like sexless boobs.
I wasn't
They're like
honestly
Barbie
looking for
boobs.
that, but I'm glad you noticed.
It was nipply in the movie theater. It was
It
not
was cold.
nipply
Yeah,
on
yeah,
the
yeah.
theater screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair.
Yeah.
There are a couple of points that I think are interesting tie-ins that I would like to just sort of flag, just because this is, as much as anything else, this is riding the ship of what the Fantastic Four is, but it's also sort of a love letter to the first family of Marvel, and we got to see that in a couple of places here. This is the most class of the Galactus versus Fantastic Four is sort of the most classic of the old Stan Lee, Jack Kirby comics. And when we got to see the Natasha Lyonne character, Rachel Rosman, she was actually named after Roz Kirby, who is Jack Kirby's wife. That's where they got that character name from. So I just like those little references that just, again, you don't need those to enjoy the film. But it was nice to know that the creators had that in mind, just sort of as things they're working in behind the scenes.
There's a lot of Kirby's involved with this
Lot of
franchise.
Kirby's.
Not
But
necessarily related.
Did they
Not
eat
all of
at
them.
the place where we met you, Will, which was at Kirby Lane?
Kirby
I'm just
Lane.
wondering.
Oh, no, I mean, they better have.
Oh my God, Will, total aside. We found an old external hard drive that we hadn't had hooked up for like 8, 9, 10 years. And we plugged it in. It was when we were redoing my office last week. And we legit found pictures from that first weekend that we all met. And I was like, oh my God, Will looks so young. Brad doesn't even have facial hair. This is so weird.
Yeah, that's blast from the past.
Right?
That was awesome. I love discovering those old things. But anyway, back to the movie. Babe, I know our friend Will, D Geek Will online, had a comment that he loved the movie as well. He said that everything he hoped it would do. And he talks about Franklin Richards, which in the movie is the baby, right? Franklin Richards.
Yes.
Yep.
And one of the things I did not understand, and I'm not sure if the movie made it clear and I missed it, or there's something else going on that I'm just not aware of, and that Galactus obviously wanted this baby. He saw the baby as some like successor to him because he's tired of having to eat planets or something, and so he wants somebody else to eat planets instead of him, so he doesn't have to do it. And I'm like, well, this is a baby. He still shits in his super diaper, and like, I didn't understand what, like, did the movie establish that Franklin was like a special baby, other than the fact that he's a product of Reed and Sue?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I know, Will, you're gonna have like the expert answer, and we'll create space for that. I will say, as someone vaguely familiar with Fantastic Four from other things, I was a little confused too. But the movie did give us an explanation. Galactus did basically say that he's like an entity, and Reed was like, well, I did all these scans. There's nothing special about him. And Ralph Ineson is like, he's hiding his power from you. And so it kind of sets up, in my mind at least, not knowing the expert answer yet, that Franklin Richards is maybe not the like sweet little baby boy that he appears to be. But Will, I would love to hear like the expert level answer. Is Franklin Richards like a total villain in the comics, or like what's the story there?
Yeah, so he's not. And of course, with a family that is, and a storyline that is based around so much like dimension hopping and time hopping, like more so than anyone else, that's what they do, is like space explorers and time explorers. There are definitely versions that kind of veer different directions, right? But generally he is seen as a kid that is anywhere between like 4.5 years old to sort of like preteen age, depending on where he is, with what's called the power cosmic, which is the same power kind of that like the Silver Surfer has, but maybe even more so. So what we got here in this movie is, so we know that Galactus has this from the movie, not even going into kind of comic lore. he has this endless hunger, and he has to consume, not because he wants to, but because he just can't stop. It's like a curse as much as anything. We know that Franklin's genes may or may not have been impacted by the cosmic rays that are in Reed and Sue's DNA. And we found out that, yes, it had, and he had been hiding it. I think that more falls in line less with him being evil and more in line with, we saw that he was, even as a baby, had enough understanding, like, hey, my mom's dead. Maybe I should use my reality warping powers to help bring her back to life. I think we also got to see his dad was stressing so much about it that he didn't want to cause any undue stress to his dad by being this thing with like changed DNA, you know? So it's just like, don't worry about it, Dad. I think that's more kind of what we're seeing with him. So less evil and more, you know, a potential for good. They could go any which direction, but that's just, you know, that's just where I'm kind of feeling it based off what we saw.
Yeah, I guess this was a movie that with regard to that aspect of that character, was definitely a tell not show, right? Like they really didn't show us anything or in the story that would indicate to me, who doesn't know, that this baby is special until Galactus like basically said, oh, you know, he's got the power and he's my, you know, he's going to take over for me or whatever he said. So it was just kind of weird that like, okay, is that true? At the time when it was spoken, I'm like, okay, is it true or is this just a crazy villain? You know what I mean? I don't know.
Well, I think maybe we're supposed to think about it in a couple of different ways. Like one, maybe we're supposed to wonder a little bit until that kind of moment at the end with him and bringing Sue back. Or two, maybe we're also supposed to think like the fact that this baby is special or maybe special or isn't special. Obviously, that's the reason for the Galactus part. But if we sort of take some of that off of the table so that we can make this more about parents protecting their kid versus like babies showing up and doing a bunch of like Jack from the Incredibles power stuff. I think that would have changed the tone. Yeah.
I was just about to ask, is Jack from the Incredibles basically Franklin Richards then?
1,000%. They based the Incredibles off the Fantastic Four and they based Jack off of Franklin. Yeah.
Gotcha. You know, I knew that we had like, was it Violet? She creates the force fields and goes invisible in that movie. Yeah. So I was like, oh yeah. And then, you know, we had Stretchy and whatever. I did not realize that the baby was also a call over to that. So that's interesting. Oh, and Will just commented. He says, other Will says, sorry, I meant monstered as in like overpowered.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing like overpowered kid who can't control his abilities.
Yeah, in the comics, he's a reality warper with basically, you know, he's considered to be one of the most powerful like beings on Earth, but he's also a kid. And sometimes his powers go away, sometimes they come back. It's all comic book shit, right? But yeah, like in terms of like overpowered power, like yeah, he has that, but that would not be out of alignment with the comic.
Yeah. Well, speaking of gaining powers, the Thing gained a new power during the course of this movie, and that was the power to turn me the fuck on, because he grew that beard out, and I laughed when it was stubble because he was like half shaved or whatever, and I'm like, oh, I'd never even thought of the Thing having to shave, and I forgot about it, and then he shows up with a fucking like beard, and I'm just like, Jesus, am I attracted to a rock person? I talk about a hard daddy. I'm glad he didn't get rocks off.
When is he not rock hard? Does he ever return? He never returns to like human form, right?
Not
at least not in
like
this movie.
And not like at will or anything like that. You know?
Didn't he in the shitty movies though? Wasn't he? Didn't he turn back into
the shitty movies?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
one of the stories that they come back to with the Thing in movies and comics all the time is, but what if you got to be a human again? And like he loses his powers, and it's like is this better? Is this worse? Because now I can't defend people. But he doesn't have the ability. generally to just sort of like turn into human form, then turn back. It's not like the Hulk where he can change forms when he wants to get his rocks
Right.
Get his rocks off. I like that.
All right, so let's talk about Galactus. Galactus is like flying this giant like planet devouring ship. So is Galactus he's eating the planets, right? It's the hunger or whatever that he's dealing with. But it sounds like it's sort of like this I don't know, this Atlas
Machine
kind of thing where he like took somebody else's place and now he has to do this, and he thinks that Franklin Richards is going to be able to take his place and like relieve him of this burden. I don't know about all that. I don't know the history. The space effects were cool. The planets breaking up were cool. It actually reminded me a lot of the Transformers animated movie from the 80s when they were inside Unicron. Yeah. So I kind of dug that. It could have used the Stan Bush song, though.
Well,
did not have that,
Ground Zero.
What movie wouldn't be better with the Stan Bush song?
I mean, that's totally fair. That's totally fair. But when Galactus came down to Earth, I think that's when we finally got like a really good sense of like the scale of his build. On the ship, it was a little hard to tell because like all the machinery was giant. Yeah. But I mean, this guy's like, he's huge. He's like, what, 3 times the height of a skyscraper or something?
It's
so
the size of several blocks in New York City or something like that, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
and, he was imposing, very imposing. And when that, I can say that from the time we first met Galactus, and he said, "I'm coming to Earth. I'm going to eat you." And he like, you know, it is as the movie progresses, he's now passing Mars, and you know, he's now at the moon, and you know, you felt that. Like I felt that in the movie. That was a good sense of tension because he's a villain that, even though he's not really well drawn and you don't know a lot about his motivation, it's scary as shit, right? He's big and scary, and that ship looked like a giant cigarette lighter in the sky.
It totally did. But I was really confused because it seemed like Galactus and his ship crossed light speed, hyperspace, whatever they call it in Marvel, really fast. And then he's like flying toward Earth really, really slow. Like they have days or weeks or months, whatever it took to build the teleporter things, right? Like why didn't he just like hyper speed right to Earth's doorstep?
You know, there's I think the thing that they ended up doing with this version of Galactus in this story. So Brad, when you described a second ago, like, oh, here's kind of what I think happened, you know, and it was, you kind of gave kind of the bare bones of it. That's all the movie gave us. And that's, I think, all we needed for here. Similar to, if I'm going back to the comparison, going to like Lex with Superman, and that, you know, we were able to just sort of pick him up in media res. Like there have been stories in the comics where you dive into the backstory of Galactus, why he is the way he is, and what. But when we first really encounter him, he's mostly just this giant cosmic threat that you can't just out punch. And so the Fantastic Four have to figure out how to outthink that situation. Right. And I think that's what worked so well with me about this version of it here. Yeah, there's some fire and there's some punching and there's a little bit of that there, but that wasn't the victory condition. The victory condition was figuring out, how do we stop this unstoppable thing? Okay. Do we reason with it? Do we make plans here on Earth? Do we try to do something else? Do we try to remove the problem or move the problem? I like that this was our version of the Fantastic Four throwing spaghetti at the wall, doing science essentially on Galactus and seeing sort of what worked.
And Will, I think what you're poking at a little bit, or at least uncovering for me, is that yes, the villain is not, you know, fully developed, would say, but that might make him actually scarier, right? Because you don't know a lot about him. You just know that he's big and bad, and he's on a mission, you know, and laser focused to destroy Earth, right, and get that baby. And that makes it a little scarier because you don't know how to deal with it, right? And neither did the Fantastic Four. And they, like you said, they were coming up with ideas. The first idea was to move Earth, right? They were just trying to move it. And I'm like, well, wait, if you just move it, wouldn't he just find it again? But I think they addressed that somehow. But and that didn't work. And then they had to figure out how to fight the guy. But yeah, I think not knowing a lot about the villain actually made it a little bit more frightening, like the fear of the unknown.
Another neat little thing about this movie that I really appreciated is I love it when we get a good feel for, like, especially for either a superhero franchise or like, a big franchise, Star Wars or what have you, where there's like musical motifs that feel very like tied to those characters or that world. You think about the classic Star Wars theme, the Wizard franchise I won't mention has a notable theme. Even Superman, going back to that, that theme has been such a part of pop culture for so long that you can remix it and do it, use it in different ways here. They have one now for this Fantastic Four, that da, 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 like that they use at the beginning, and they keep coming back to that motif, but in different ways. It played in different ways, whether it be in the little cartoon stuff they did. A couple of different remixes of that theme appeared in the closing credits. I always felt like I was getting like pumped up for these characters whenever that little musical score showed up. So kudos to, I think it's Michael Giacchino on this who did the score. I could be wrong. I'm probably wrong, so I will look it up later. But it just, the music was really solid in this.
Do we want to talk about the stingers that were attached to this movie? Because one of them seems like it's setting something up that I don't know anything about. Do you guys remember?
Yeah.
Do you guys remember them?
I do.
Right, they're in the house, and
absolutely
somebody is watching the baby, and it turns out that there's this dark figure playing with the baby. And
Dr.
Can you guys
Doom,
talk about that a little bit? Because
right?
I was lost. I didn't know who that was. I just because on the screen it said the Fantastic Four will be back in something Doomsday. Was
Avengers Doomsday?
Avengers Doomsday. Okay, yeah. What can you guys, as the comic minds here, tell me about that?
Here's all you need to know.
Did it make you happy?
Here's all you need to know. Dr. Doom is considered like the Fantastic Four's biggest villain. He's the one that we saw in actually all four of the other Fantastic Four movies. I guess maybe not the Silver Surfer one. That's a good one. But he's the main villain of that. So we know that's Dr. Doom. And we know that at Comic-Con a year ago, 2 years ago, they revealed that Robert Downey Jr. is going to be playing Dr. Doom. We don't know why or how, because obviously he was just Tony Stark. So what's going on? We don't know. So all we know are those two things coming into this. So does this make me excited? Sure. I know it's tying into something. But I also like that it was not... It didn't carry enough weight with it that like I had to like put on pause everything else I just watched to understand or to feel with that. It was just sort of like it was like watching like a coming next episode type thing at the end of a television show.
Yeah. I'm laughing, Will, because I hope Jim still has his earbuds in, because he like asked this huge question and then his camera goes dark and he messages, "I have to go pee," and I'm like, okay. He's probably like doing the three little shakes at the end right now. Like, I'm still here.
I promise I can hear. We'll know if he just comes back and goes, "Wow, that's really interesting." Then we'll know that he didn't have his ears.
That was so insightful while I was taking a piss. Welcome back.
Yeah, that was very interesting, Will. Yeah, thank you. and it was only 2 shakes, not 3. So
There you go.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
yeah, I don't know much about Doctor Doom. I think I've heard the name once or twice, but and somebody did say that Robert Downey Jr. was playing him. So yeah, we'll see how that turns out. So how can
Yeah. Well, real quick are we moving on from Doctor Doom? Jim?
Kind of. I was just going to ask, like, it's okay in this world to like have one actor play Doctor Doom and Tony Stark at the same time.
All right.
Yeah.
Real quick before we do that, I want to give a moment for Julian McMahon, who played Doctor Doom in the shitty movies. He was the best part of them for me, and he recently passed away. He was very famous for being on the show Charmed as Cole, the super sexy, hairy-chested half demon.
Also in Nip Tuck, right?
He was in Nip Tuck as well. Yep. So very, very bummed to hear that he passed away. In any event, yes. How can Robert Downey Jr., Tony Stark, be Victor Von Doom? Question mark?
We're very much likely dealing with like dimension hopping stuff.
It's a different universe, right? It's a different Earth. So
it's a different Earth, and so and aside from that sort of like catch-all description, we don't know yet. So that's pretty exciting to me. Like I don't know which direction they're going to go with this. I can make fan theories, but it's all just bullshit pulled from my ass. Like what they're actually going to come up with, I'm excited to see.
I mean, I see the linkage. Iron Man wore a metal suit, and Victor Von Doom wears a metal suit, right? So maybe this is kind of like a Superman Red Sun situation. That's the only thing I can equate it to. Like maybe Tony Stark in whatever universe he's from, and maybe he's from Earth 626 or whatever this one was.
Yeah.
But I don't remember, whatever the fuck. But like maybe he was like adopted by the Von Dooms, or I don't know, accidentally kills Victor Von Doom and takes his place for some reason, or I don't know. But we're going to see him in a metal suit again.
There's a sort of a notable set of comics where it's it follows the Fantastic Four through the Illuminati, which is a group of like Charles Xavier and Dr. Strange, like a lot of like the smartest people world.
We saw those in one of the recent movies,
in Doctor
right?
Strange Multiverse of Madness, right?
Yes.
So
right.
So it follows them because they realize that there's 2 Earths that are basically in opposite dimensions that are both about to occupy the same space, and so it's sort of like, oh shit, well, our dimension has to kind of fight their dimension to sort of figure out how we're going to do that. And the one on the other side is a version of Reed Richards called the Maker, who is just like, what would Reed Richards be like if he had like no like scientific ethics? And so I'm interested in seeing, that's obviously not a 1-to-1 here, but just with these different dimensions and, the X-Men are over here, whatever, I think we might be dealing with what happens when these things kind of come to the same place and people try to occupy the power for it. That's what I'm.
Right. Well, I mean, from that scene in Doctor Strange, John Krasinski was Mr. Fantastic.
Yes.
Right? So like, that's how different actors can maybe be the same characters, because different dimensions, genetics, whatever the fuck. A wizard did it, Jim.
Oh,
That's
wizards, space wizards did it.
Exactly. It's fine. It's fine. Again, you can't think about it too much.
I have one last sort of like a comic adjacent aside that I want to mention, but then I know we've still got plugs. I just wanted to last week. When we were talking with Bill, we sort of bust into the idea of like, well, if you're interested in this character and you want to pick up some comics, where would you get started, right? And there's a really, really good place, I think, for this with Fantastic Four. Of course, you can dig deep and kind of read the original Galactus like comic books or something like that. But if you want something that's sort of covers a cross section of things, Marvel has started putting out these things called the Premier Collection, which are collections of issues in a graphic novel format but at a slightly reduced size, so the price is lower. So it's like $14.99 for this entire, I think, 12 issue run of and the one they put out for Fantastic Four is Fantastic Four Solve Everything, where Reed decides like if he's going to be using sort of science and alternate dimensions to try to solve all of the Fantastic Four's problems while they're bartering deals with Subterranea and the Inhumans and different things. It's a great story if you want to learn about all four of the Fantastic Four and sort of see a cross section of stories that has a through line, but also you kind of get an episodic feel. It's the same as you mentioned last week, All-Star Superman, which is sort of that same vibe. They have DC has this compact comics for $10 you can get. So I've been really into these things because you can collect quick trade for like $10 the whole thing. And then
that's
All-Star
awesome.
Superman is also that same, it's a through line story, but it's very episodic as well. So
yeah, that's cool. Thanks for calling that out. And Will, I know it's a little shop talk. If you don't mind dropping that in our MBP chat, I'd love to check it out. And maybe we can put it in the show notes. But big shout out to Bill for mentioning the Man of Steel run. I caught some of those comics growing up, but never. We just didn't have a lot of money to spend on extraneous things like comic books. So I would read those comics when I went to see my mom and grandma at the lunch counter they worked at in a drugstore. And so I got to read whatever comic was on the shelf while I was there, and then I'd have to put it back on the shelf and leave. In any event, I do just want to call something out. I don't know what this is like if anyone buys their comics digitally, like I've been doing. But I went out and I bought Man of Steel on Amazon. Unfortunately, Comixology, RIP. Only to find out that only collects the first 4 volumes, I guess, of Man of Steel. And that was $60. But you could get the entire 88 to 1996 or whatever run for $60 in one volume, which is like, or one omnibus, which is like 9 volumes of comics. And it took me an hour and a half on the phone with Amazon to get a refund so I could buy the one that had all the comics instead of just 4. Why does it have to be so confusing? I don't understand. But that's why I like these collected ones, because it takes all the like math and see issue 133 for an explanation as to why Ben has purple rocks instead of orange today. You know, like, it's cool that they do that.
And
so
now's a great time because Marvel and DC are both doing these. And again, it's like they're not at full comic book size. They're a little bit shorter, but not by a bunch. But they're at such a decreased price, and they're churning out like all of their kind of big hit like events and stories.
That's great.
So it's a great time to sort of like just dive in. I picked up the Authority for $10. I picked up the entire run of the Authority, which I had not read, and it's only there because it was the first appearance of Engineer, who we just saw in Superman. So for $10, I got to do that for that Superman tie-in.
That's awesome. Super cool. All right. Well, I do believe we've probably plumbed the depths that we're going to for now. So we would end the show, but plugs have to happen.
But plugs, we always forget about the plugs.
But plugs, we always forget about plugs. But plugs have to happen, right? So get out your favorite traffic cone sized butt plug, because here we go. We're gonna put some things on your radar. Speaking of traffic cone size things that we love and think you might love too. So let's move over to Jim to kick us off for this one. Babe, what is your butt plug for this week?
My plug for this week is a documentary. Go figure, right? I am a big documentary fan. I'm also a big music fan, and this one's a music documentary. HBO, are they now HBO again, or HBO Max? I don't know. They changed their name.
They are HBO again.
They're HBO again. They just put out a 2-part documentary called Billy Joel and So It Goes. This is and it's 2 parts. It's not just an hour and an hour. It's like 2.5 hours and then like another 2 or 2.5 hours. So it's about 4.5 to 5 hours long documentary about Billy Joel. And look, I grew up listening to music in the my formative years of listening to music were like in the 70s, 80s, during the time that Billy Joel, came into prominence and released a whole bunch of great music out there. I've listened to him all the time. Like, I really was into his music when I first discovered him, like in the late 70s, early 80s. And then been listening to him since. He's still on my playlist. So when this documentary came out, I said, "Ooh, I got to watch to see what this is all about." And look, this documentary is very well done, and his life in the music business and his personal life, it's all there. It's a pretty in-depth story, and he's pretty wide open about things. He's been married and divorced, I think, 3 times. I think his latest marriage was like his 4th. Through Christy Brinkley, the Christy Brinkley days. He had one wife before that and another after that. And just fascinating stuff, especially about the music stuff. He fell away from popular music for a long time, popular and rock music for a long time, and became like a classical composer. And that's all wrapped up in the fact that his dad was a classical pianist who was very distant from Billy and never acknowledged Billy's like talent or success because he left the family like when Billy was 7. And so I think he was always looking for that. These are daddy issues, right? All these certain things come up in these documentaries all the time. Daddy issues, substance abuse issues, relationship issues, music business issues. And they're all here laid out, but they're really well presented. It's all pretty chronological, which makes it easy to follow, but it's very well done. I would recommend it. It's called Billy Joel, and So It Goes, and it's on HBO right now.
Okay, so I have to ask, is Piano Man about his dad?
No, it's about him, actually.
Or is it about
it's
him?
more autobiographical. Okay. Yeah. Because he did play in piano bars early on. Yes.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay. That's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing a little bit about that. I caught bits and pieces while I was doing some other things. And I don't know. I have a weird relationship with Billy Joel. I had a roommate in college who listened to nothing but Billy Joel and Elton John nonstop for 24/7.
That same
God love
dude.
you, Greg. You're one of my favorite people on the planet, Greg. But it made it really hard for me to listen to Elton and Billy for a really long time. So Jim was watching a documentary. It's like Billy Joel singing, and I'm like, that Homer Simpson meme where he just like backs away?
Yeah.
Like that was me just out of the room, But I'm really glad you enjoyed it.
It does
so much,
go into
Jim. That's
the
great.
origins of Piano Man, that very famous song that he did. It goes into like people comparing him to Elton John at the time, and how he at first was like very not offended, but like he didn't really like that because they're two different musicians who play differently and have different styles. And then of course later on in life they did these massive concerts where it was Billy Joel and Elton John together for several performances, like a whole tour or something, and they became really good friends. And during one of Billy's times when he was struggling with substances, and Elton John helped him through that. And there's a lot of that in there too. It's just some really great stuff in there.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing that. All right, Will, what is your butt plug?
My butt plug is actually a movie starring. So there's this actor. He has not been getting a lot of work lately. But he
Pedro
is someone
Pascal?
who I think we should keep an eye on. His name is Pedro Pascal.
Interesting.
In Ari Aster's Eddington, which
I was just joking. I was just joking. I didn't.
No, it's 100%. Yeah, that was the setup. The plug is Eddington. The idea is this is Ari Aster movie. He's the one that gave us Hereditary, Midsummer, and Beau's Afraid. and it stars Joaquin Phoenix. This is in May of 2020, so it's like right at the beginning of COVID, and he is Joaquin Phoenix is playing a New Mexico sheriff, sort of in the vein of some of the maybe notable New Mexico / Arizona sheriffs that came to prominence around early COVID.
Oh,
Pedro Pascal is the mayor of the small community they're in, and the two of them kind of come to head over, one, who should be mayor because of what's going on with COVID, and whether or not it's real and all of that. This movie is very funny. It's very kind of darkly funny, and it pulls off some things that I don't know that anyone else except for very specifically Ari Aster could pull off. It gets buck wild in places in ways that I was not expecting. Good supporting cast here. Austin Butler and Emma Stone are definitely standouts here. There is some violence, there is some social commentary, and there's sort of this like look at sort of like how perpetually online we kind of were at the beginning of COVID, and how that sort of maybe influenced some of our worst behaviors overall. It's very good. It's going to be a polarizing movie because I don't know, if everyone has the same distance between, what happened literally 4.5, 5 years ago, for it to start being able to take the piss out of it a little bit. But I think if you are, this movie does an exceptional job of it. So yeah, it's called Eddington. It's in theaters now. One of Joaquin Phoenix's just most consistently good roles. Like it's a good movie.
I've seen a lot of mixed stuff on this, Will, like very polarized, like you said, reactions to this. So I haven't seen it. I don't know. I probably will see it at some point. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the buzz is all about.
I would definitely see it. I do really like Pedro Pascal. I know I made some comments earlier, like he's the same in everything. Also love Joaquin Phoenix. I will say though that I can't hear the title of this movie without thinking of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. For any of you Star Trek nerds out there, Michael Eddington was a very famous character from that show, and every time someone names that movie, like that's where my brain goes.
Super
Maybe
fair.
he's in it. Maybe he's in it.
I'll never tell.
Big plus for you.
Well, thanks so much for sharing. Appreciate that. I will close the hole with my butt plug that's still open and share my choice this week. Will, it's actually a movie you talked about a few weeks back on our summer catch-up episode. Summer catch-up episode. I literally had someone message me who did not read the title of the show in Apple Podcasts and ask why I kept saying movie catch-up. And they're like, what is movie catch-up? I don't know.
Well, Brad, it's
sorry
because your pronunciation didn't cut the mustard.
Yeah.
I really relish that joke, Will. In any event, I wanted to call this movie out again, because I hadn't seen it when you brought it up. And I really appreciate you know that I don't like to be super influenced, and I appreciated your light touch when you recommended it. I was able to go into The Life of Chuck pretty free and unencumbered of other opinions. And I know I'm weird. Lots of people probably even listen to this show because they like hearing other opinions before they see stuff sometimes. But for me, I wanted to go in fresh, so I was just like, I'm going to be quiet. I want to see it. Movie blew me away. I don't think it's my number one film of the year. I think it's my number two. You can probably guess what my number one is. But it actually reminded me a lot of a psychedelic therapy in a clinic thing that I do which has been really helpful for dealing with grief and trauma. Ketamine therapy is amazing in a clinical setting with, doctors and nurses doing what they do. But sometimes during that therapy, I experience time non-linearly, which is really weird to talk about out loud. But that's what helps me like connect with past things and heal traumas, whatever. But in this movie, there's sort of this like weird thing going on with like time and mental constructs versus real life, and it was a head trip. Like it was a whole like emotional journey, but I cried in that movie probably about 12 times. And the end credits are rolling and the music is playing and the lights come up and I'm still like hitching my chest like crying. And I don't know. It's very rare that a movie does that for me. So it's based on a Stephen King novella. I think it's like 168 pages or something. It was originally part of like a short story collection. It has since been pulled out and it is now its own thing. And you can get it for like $3.99 on Kindle if you do books through Amazon, or just go to your local library or whatever. Do people still use libraries? Are they still a thing?
Yes,
I hope
yes.
so.
And if quick plug inside of the plug, if go to your local library and get access to Canopy, it's like free streaming for
Yes.
movies.
Yes.
Right, Canopy. That's right. Will, it's usually Letterboxd, but this week it's Canopy before Letterboxd comes
Yeah.
in. You always have like 12 plugs, but they're all amazing. It's great. In any event, Will, thanks for soft turning me on to this one. But also just thank you, to Stephen King for writing this brilliant story, and of course, the movie makers and Tom Hiddleston. Just such a really, really great, touching film. I did buy the score, y'all, which we know is my litmus test. So yeah, it's been great. I've been listening to it kind of on repeat for about a week. Jim was like, I haven't heard you listen to much Taylor Swift lately. What's going on? Well, babe, that's why.
Yeah, it was a great film. The Life of Chuck. It kind of surprised me too because I went in pretty cold. I had heard people say it's like Benjamin Button, blah blah blah, blah, life in reverse, blah, blah. And that's kind of true, but not really. The structure of the movie is unconventional, I will say that, and I think the movie's better for it. I think that whole first act is like blew me away. Like if that was the story in itself, that would be great. That first act, which I think they called the third act, I don't know, whatever. But like, yeah, that whole thing, this movie would probably benefit from a second watching, in a way, because you're pretty far into this film before you figure out what the fuck is really going on with Chuck and his life and everything. But once you do catch on, it really hits its stride. And I really liked Life of Chuck.
Yeah. And like you said, music solid. It has, I think, my 3 favorite scenes in all of movies this year all feature characters dancing. And 2 of those scenes are in this movie.
Yes.
The other one's Sinners.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh god, Sinners was so good.
So this is like at the end of the year, you always see those like compilation videos of people like putting their favorite films together, and a lot of times it features like people dancing, like a quick montage of people dancing in trailers. They have a lot to choose from this year.
Who knows? We may have to add a category this year: best dance scene.
Oh yeah,
maybe so when we do our superlatives. Yeah, that could be good. All right. Well, we are at time. It has been great hanging out with all of you out there in listener land. I want to give a shout out to Steve Sosa. We didn't read Steve's comments. They were kind of coming in as the conversation was barreling forward. But Steve does say Michael Chiklis was still the best thing in his mind. I don't know that I agree in terms of like him being the thing, but Michael Chiklis gets the best award for hairiest chest in a superhero movie ever from me. because he's like shirtless a lot in those shitty movies. It was him and Julian McMahon that, you know, kind of saved those for me. So
Yeah, Brad, but here's the thing.
yeah, literally a picture that Will's holding up for those who can't see. In any event, thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. It was great to hang with you. We are going to be off next week. Normally August 5th, a Tuesday, would be our record night. But we got some other stuff going on. But we'll be back with you on August 12th, 2025 for Weapons and some more plugs. Horror movies don't get enough love in general. We're going to highlight one. And we'll see if it's good. Hopefully it is. Fingers crossed. It looks like it will be. But just in case folks want to reach out in the off week, Jim, how can folks connect with you online?
Oh, you can find my Letterboxd reviews and movie ratings on Letterboxd under my my name on there is at JJP Out West, or you can find me on regular Facebook under my regular name, Jim Pugliafico.
All right. Thank you so much. Will, how about you, friend?
Yeah, check out the two big socials for me. I'm on Facebook. Look for William Lindis. That's my general socializing and posting about just all sorts of different things. And then for very movie specific stuff, look on Letterboxd. I'm at the Movie Bear there.
All right. Excellent. And folks, you can find me on Facebook. Just look for Bradley Harris. Brad, now with an L-E-Y at the end. And you can also find me on Letterboxd at iBradPro. Really have been diligent about logging my movies. Will, I was able to create my top 10 list so far in the car the other day in all of 4 seconds. And then we were with our friend Kevin, and he created his list. And then Jim handed me his phone because Jim was driving. We created Jim's list. Our lists are shaping up. Really fucking awesome so far.
I'm excited to see. I mean, we've still got a lot of runway left in the year, but I'm excited to see what those lists look like when we get to that point.
Me too. And thank you to Letterboxd for making it so easy to sort by year and rating to see what those lists are. In any event, we are out. We'll see y'all in a couple of weeks. See some good movies, and we'll catch you soon. Take care, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.